So with Marvel finally revealing that the Fantastic Four will be coming to the MCU, it seems like a good of a time as any to stop and take a look at who I would personally cast as Marvel's first family when they make their appearance into the MCU. Make sure you leave your personal castings in the comment section down below. The way this is going to work is I'm basically going to do a top 3 for each family member and also the Doctor Doom character as the villain for the film, and then I'll look at who will be my top choice at the end of each section. So with all that out of the way, let's jump into the video. So starting off with Reed Richards, I'm going to start off with the obvious choice, which is of course John Krasinski. Now John Krasinski is a very talented, very funny, very charismatic actor who you could definitely see coming into the role of Mr. Fantastic in this universe. He just fits the mold, it just seems to work really well. Obviously you look at John Krasinski, you look at his line of work, you can look at him as this character of Reed Richards and it just fits very well in your head. Not only does he have the very fun and lightheartedness that you see in his role of Jim Halpert in The Office, but you also look at his role in the Amazon Jack Ryan series where you really get to see the intelligence of John Krasinski. He's really able to blend these two different elements together, and it's those two particular elements that are particularly lended very well to the character of Reed Richards. So I feel like John Krasinski is always a good bet. Also, John Cho. John Cho is probably best known at this point for playing Sulu in the recent Star Trek reboot, but also most recently in the lead of the film Searching, which if you have not seen, I highly recommend you search it out. It is an incredible film and he is incredible in it. And honestly, my top choice for Mr. Fantastic honestly could be John Cho. The only thing that holds me back is his age. He's nearly 50 years old now, and I feel like Marvel, they're going to want to tie him into a contract. They're going to want to do 3 films with the Fantastic Four and then maybe, throw them in with the Avengers and things like that. So John Cho really is not a viable choice for them. So like I say, he honestly could be my top choice. I'm a huge fan of John Cho. I would love for him to get a role like this, but I just don't really see Marvel putting their money on him given his age. My number 1 choice for Reed Richards definitely has to go to Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I love this idea. I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a tremendous actor, whether you look at him in things like 50-50 and also in The Dark Knight Rises with Christopher Nolan. He's already dipped his feet into the superhero genre. He definitely is a fantastic actor. He's extremely fun. He's extremely charismatic. He's a great personality. And again, you can see that intelligent side of him when you look at movies like Snowden. He's just a very, very good actor overall. And I feel like he's a great choice for Reed Richards. He's around the right age to what I would imagine him to be in the MCU, and I feel like his personality type just lends himself very well not only to the MCU but also to Reed Richards as a character. And also, in a way that doesn't sound insulting, he has a very stretchy face. I don't know how to explain that, but I feel like all those elements coming together make him a perfect and ideal casting choice for Reed Richards. And if he's not going to do that, then put him as Plastic Man in the DCEU or something. He needs to play a stretchy character, and I feel like he's the best choice for Reed Richards in the MCU. Moving over to Sue Storm, we have Emily Blunt. Now, Emily Blunt, I feel like, obviously, is the other obvious choice in this list, because, obviously, people see, oh, we want John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. Well, obviously, his real-life wife, Emily Blunt, is the perfect casting choice for Sue Storm. Now, while I don't feel like Emily Blunt lends herself as well to Sue Storm as John Krasinski does to Reed Richards, she would still be a wonderful choice regardless, because she is such an incredible actress. You just have to look at her work in Sicario to realize how strong of an actress and how talented she really is. Also, her lightheartedness that we would have seen in Mary Poppins Returns. Granted, I don't love that movie, but she was very good in it. And I feel like her lending her talent to this role to the MCU is something that it would really benefit from. And also, again, her having that instant chemistry with John Krasinski, given the fact that they are husband and wife in real life, would be a really fun dynamic to bring to screen. And I feel like, again, Emily Blunt is an obvious choice, but a very good one nonetheless. Then we have Emilia Clarke. Emilia Clarke, obviously best known for playing Daenerys Targaryen in Game of Thrones. I feel like having her come into this universe is something that she needs. Emilia Clarke is struggling to get work outside of Game of Thrones, at least good work. I feel like she was okay in Solo, a Star Wars story. I just don't feel like that character was particularly given much to do, but she was very likable there, and I feel like her work in Terminator Genesis, kind of the similar thing. She needs that big outbreak role that gets her away from TV into film, and I feel like Sue Storm is something that she could definitely take on and definitely do in a strong way and a very capable way. And again, even if they paired her with someone like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, just on screen, thinking about it in my head, it just looks great, it works. And I feel like Emilia Clarke, again, is a very strong actress who hasn't really been given the right role in film yet, and I feel like this could be the one should they give her the chance. My number 1 choice for Sue Storm, though, is Lily James. I just I love Lily James in literally anything that she does. I think she's phenomenal. I think she's so likable. She seems so sweet. She seems so genuine. And all those qualities can really come across with Sue Storm. I feel like she would be perfectly paired with whoever you cast as as Reed Richards. I feel like she's just a great casting choice all round. I feel like she would be able to portray the arc very well for Sue Storm. Just overall, I feel like she's perfect in every role she's ever been cast in. And I feel like bringing her into the MCU is something that's just a long time coming. And I feel like Sue Storm really could be the perfect role for her. Now moving over to Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, I think first off we've got to talk about Joe Keery. Now Joe Keery is at the top of a lot of people's lists. This is of course the guy from Stranger Things. Now I don't love Stranger Things. I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I think Stranger Things is a little bit overrated personally, but I do love him in it. I think he's brilliant in the show. I love his character of Steve Harrington. I think he's great in that show. I think he really is able to portray the cockiness of Johnny Storm, but also kind of the, hot kind of, jock kind of character, which he is. Obviously, Johnny Storm is supposed to be very hot-headed. He's also supposed to be a very good-looking character. He's also supposed to be very cocky. And I feel like Joe Keery kind of presents all those elements within his character of Steve Harrington in Stranger Things. So I feel like if he just took that performance and brought it over to the MCU, you could definitely see him taking on the role of Johnny Storm, no problem whatsoever. Bit of a wild card option, but my runner-up is Andrew Garfield. Now, Andrew Garfield, of course, best known for playing Spider-Man in the Amazing Spider-Man franchise. I feel like he really needs a second shot at playing a superhero because he was so good at it. And I feel like taking on the role of Johnny Storm, again, he has that really good-looking feel to him. He could also really play the cockiness very well because his version of Spider-Man was fairly cocky. So I feel like he could bring that over to Johnny Storm. And I feel like he's just perfectly able to encapsulate the character. Again, it's a bit of a wild card choice because I feel like personality-wise, when I look at Andrew Garfield, I just don't see Sue Storm. I don't see Johnny Storm. But when I look at his performance as Peter Parker Spider-Man in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, I do see Johnny Storm. So I feel like, again, it's an interesting choice. I'm a big fan of Andrew, so I'd love to see him take on this role. And I feel like, again, it could be something interesting and giving him that second chance as a superhero after his failed first attempt. My number one, though, is definitely the obvious choice, and that is Zac Efron. I just don't see anybody else in this role. I really don't. I feel like Zac Efron is perfect for this. If you just look at his role simply in Baywatch, which granted, not a great movie, not an amazing performance by any means, but that just is Johnny Storm. Like, that personality, that character in Baywatch, it just is Johnny Storm. I feel like if he brought that to the MCU, he could just portray the most perfect Johnny Storm that we've ever seen. Also, if you look at his personality type in Extremely Wicked, which granted, I'm not saying they need to make Johnny Storm Ted Bundy, but it's definitely, again, a good comparison to look at. I feel like Johnny Storm as a character just fits all the right elements for Zac Efron. Of course, Zac Efron is an extremely good-looking guy. I feel like he'd be able to take on that side of the character as well, and also the cockiness side. Zac Efron plays that so well. Like I say, I just don't see anybody else in this role. I feel like you've got to cast him here. I think he'd be great in this role. And again, honestly, I don't see anyone else as Johnny Storm at this point other than Zac Efron. And then we have Ben Grimm, the Thing. Now, Ben Grimm is probably the most difficult of the four to cast. This was definitely the one I struggled with the most because it's a very, very difficult character to play because he has to play kind of funny and lighthearted, but you also have to play like this deep sadness within. It's a very, very different character to play for Ben Grimm. So my first choice is a very, very weird one, and that is Terry Crews. Now, I don't know how I feel about this myself. I just have the idea in my head, and I kind of like it. Just the idea of Terry Crews, obviously he's a very, very funny actor. If you've ever watched him in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, he's hysterical on that show. But he's a very big actor, of course. He's a big man. But I feel like he could portray the role of Ben Grimm kind of well. Again, I'm not sure about the sadness angle. I don't know how they would portray that through Terry Crews. But again, the humor angle of it could definitely work very, very well. I feel like, because a lot of people were talking about David Harbour for this role, which obviously that can't happen. He's been cast in the Black Widow movie. But I feel like if you're looking for a replacement for David Harbour, I feel like Terry Crews isn't far off from that, and I feel like he could be a really good thing if he actually really committed to it. My runner-up choice for Ben Grimm is Ben Foster. Now, Ben Foster is an actor who is extremely reliable. You can put him in any movie and he will be almost the highlight of it. If you just look him in things like Hell or High Water or Leave No Trace, he's just brilliant in those roles. And I feel like Ben Foster is a kind of actor who maybe perhaps is a bit above the MCU, but then again, I would have said that about Jake Gyllenhaal, so I don't really know where the MCU is really going to go in regards to its acting choices, but Ben Foster, he's so reliable, and he could definitely play that, underlying sadness part of the role. Like I say, I feel like Terry Crews is perfect for the comedy, but then you have Ben Foster, who'd be perfect for that underlying sadness and depression that you get from Ben Grimm, and I feel like he would be perfect for this. And again, he's just such a brilliant actor. He could chew this up no problem and take it under his wing without a doubt. My number one choice, though, is Jesse Plemons. Jesse Plemons, I just think, is an actor who, every time he pops up, he always steals the show. Like, obviously, if you've seen the movie Game Night, he just completely stole that movie. And I feel like if you look at him in things like Breaking Bad, for me, I'm looking at him and I see Ben Grimm. I'm really seeing this. Because, again, he can play the comedy side of it. We have seen him be very funny. Again, in Game Night, he's very, very funny. But also in Game Night in particular, that's the performance I'm referencing. He definitely has this underlying kind of, sadness to him, which again very much applies to Ben Grimm. So I feel like that particular role is something that Jesse Plemons could bring over to the MCU to portray the Thing. And again, it just works very well in my head. And I'm looking at all the top choices I've mentioned. I'm picturing them in my head on screen as a team, as a family. And it just fits really well for me. It works really well. And Jesse Plemons is my number one choice for Ben Grimm. Now, of course, we need a good villain for this series. And that is, of course, Doctor Doom. So who should play Doctor Doom in the MCU? Well, obviously, Bryan Cranston, I think, is a good choice. Bryan Cranston, always a reliable actor. You can get him for pretty much any role. He'll succeed. I feel like this is a good role for him. Definitely something that he'll be able to chew up and definitely take a good go at. And I don't know, my only problem with Bryan Cranston, a bit like John Cho for Reed, is that I feel like he might be a bit old. I normally see Doctor Doom or, Victor Domashev or Victor Von Doom basically as a... kind of around similar age to Reed, and I feel like obviously Bryan Cranston is obviously quite a bit older than, say, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who would be my top choice. So I feel like Bryan Cranston might be a bit off there. Same goes for my other choice of Michael Fassbender. Now, Michael Fassbender, of course, is best known for playing Magneto in the X-Men movies. I don't know if, Michael Fassbender would be exactly quickly open to jump into another big superhero franchise after the ending of the X-Men franchise this year. I don't think he'd be, particularly enthusiastic to jump into another big budget Hollywood superhero franchise after he literally has just finished the role of Magneto. So I feel like, again, a good choice, and a definitely reliable choice, but not one that the actor would be open to, and also one that Marvel would particularly be open to. My number one choice for Doctor Doom is Adam Driver. Now, Adam Driver is an actor I'm a huge fan of. I've been a huge fan of him for a long time. I love him as Kylo Ren in Star Wars, and I also love him in Patterson and Black Klansman. I think he's just incredible in every role that he does. Logan Lucky is another good one. I just think he's a brilliant actor, and I've been waiting for him to get this kind of superhero role. I don't know if he was ever going to get it. Obviously, he's the main villain in Star Wars. I don't know if he's ever going to do a big budget superhero movie, but I feel like if he is going to, it should be a one-off kind of thing, and that would be with Doctor Doom in the Fantastic Four. I think he'd be a brilliant Fantastic Four villain, especially because, again, I do kind of see him in a similar vein, similar age range as the Fantastic Four themselves. I kind of kept all the Fantastic Four actors within the same age range, and I feel like Adam Driver does come into that as well. He's an extremely talented actor. I'm a big fan of his. I love every role he takes on. He's got this dark edge to him, but he can also play this kind of lighter comedy side to him, which we saw in Black Klansman. He kind of had the perfect balance there, and I feel like bringing him into the MCU as a really good, terrifying villain could work so well for him, and again, the perfect role for him to encapsulate within the superhero genre. So they're my choices for the MCU's version of the Fantastic Four. Make sure you leave your choices in the comment section down below, and what do you think of my choices? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let's have a conversation about it in the comment section down below, and as always, guys, if you want to see more movie reviews and movie related videos like this, be sure to subscribe, and I hope to see you guys again next time.